everyone. Now that I have begun my spring break, which will be mainly time for me to grade a lot of midterm essays, I also did want to come on here and start making some videos about my reading again. And so today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about my Zola project, so Émile Zola, and I am going to be appearing at a website because, and I'm not exactly sure why, it was a bit of I just fell into this idea. So we're talking about the cycle of 20 novels that Émile Zola wrote towards the end of the 19th century. He started when he was quite young, I think, so in his late 20s. And it's called the Rougon Macquart. I'm not that good with French, so, but it's two family names, two families, the Rougons and the Macquarts, or Macquarts. You see, in German you make that a k, but I don't know if they do that in French so much. I don't think they do. So Macquart. And it's a joint family, and there's 20 sets of novels. And so if you go to the publication order, they have them just in terms of when they were published. And that's one order, that's one way to approach the novels. And I'm appearing at this site that is actually really interesting. It's all over the place. So one of the main people behind this is a vlogger from Australia. And so there are other people. There's a lady here who is a vlogger from Alabama. So just people who vlog, and they've gone ahead and created a bunch of really useful websites for Zola and Balzac. There's a companion site for all the Balzac stuff, which I haven't really, except for one novel, Pierre, it wasn't Goriot. What was the one that I read? I've even forgotten what it was. Well, I haven't I'll go back to Balzac perhaps one day, but right now I'm doing the Zola. And so what I found here is a blog post by the lady who apparently lives in Alabama. And it's talking about an acquaintance of Zola's, Ernest Alfred Visitelli, who actually also translated the works, but apparently they're not good translations, or they're not well thought of. But in his book called Émile Zola, Novelist and Reformer, an account of his life and work from 1904, so, beginning of the 20th century, he devotes 15 pages to explaining a recommended reading order for the 20 novels, which differs from the publication order. The difference between the two orders, I think, as I'm finding out, I'm sort of slowly finding out, is that we focus in his suggested reading order on each of the families separately, and only at the very end. So there's a book at the end called Le Docteur Pascal that kind of reflects back on the family, on the whole thing. And that'll kind of tie things up. But so you have these, and so the first book is sort of sets out the beginnings of the family, the fortunes of the Rougons, which I have fond memories of, but also sort of, like, sometimes I do think they're a little bit slow, but I think it's more just, you have to just go with Zola. He doesn't suck you in as much as, in my opinion, except for one novel that I read before all of this, which was Germinal, which I thought was amazing. That sucked me in. But this was very good and very memorable. And you sort of feel it's a worthwhile project to give your mind over to Zola, or I do. And also, he's not that difficult. So, it's time well spent. Plus the writing, as you know with me, I love his writing. And that, despite the fact that what's the sort of his ideas about what he's doing are kind of distasteful to me, which I'll get into perhaps either in this video or perhaps there'll be a part 2. So anyway, this is definitely the first of the Rougon Macquart series, and it focuses on the beginnings of the family. And to be honest, I would have to reread it to be able to give you a good summary. But I do recall, like, the beginning, with him you recall scenes, the two young lovers in the beginning and how they're viewing a group of people. I think it has to do with the 1848 revolution. And you see they're following a group of revolutionaries marching along. And it's very memorable because it's in the middle of the night and you see them all. But then it hones in on the struggling family, and there's sort of, as I recall, this is very vague, there's a striving lower middle class part of the family who really are obsessed with status and want to move up. But then there's a sort of a rougher element that comes in, and they're not really middle class. Maybe they're the ones that will turn into the Macquarts, so the Rougons are very upwardly mobile and striving and obsessed with status, and the Marquois are maybe the working class people. So what I do like about Zola is that's what I loved about Germinal, is the stuff that takes place among the very poor classes is really phenomenal and moving. And he's a naturalist, which we'll get into either this video or another one, what that means. But he gets down into the dirt with these people, into the mines, with the people and the women and the men and the horses. I'll never forget all these horses in the mines. Anyway, so for some reason, I decided to go with this suggested reading order instead of the publication order. And so I'm honing in on recommended reading order. So it starts, okay, here are the dates, thank you. 1871 so the dates of publication will be out of order, but in terms of the narrative, it's sort of in order. And so far it seems to be working that well. The stories are not that closely connected, so you can really dip in. And one thing that they do say, which, I'm repeating this, if you're not sure you want to commit to 20 novels, don't worry about this recommended reading order. Just read around in the ones that are most famous. There's a bunch that are really quite famous and others less so. So, it's up to you what you want to decide to do. But I've committed to the whole group. I think I can handle 20 Zola novels as opposed to the Comedie Humaine of Balzac is, 50 novels? Which I'm also there's a part of me that is intrigued by that too. But, there's another part of me that really wants to finish and I haven't yet, the Proust. I got bogged down in book 2, and I really need to find my way back to it at some point. Anyway, back to Zola. So there's this one first, The Fortunate Little Grands, 1871. And as I said, I really kind of want to reread it because the more you get in, the more you now when I would read it, I would probably read it quite differently. Coming into it at the beginning, it's sort of like, well, who are these people? Plus, I do love the editions and I love these paintings. I love this one by someone called Jean-Frédéric Basile. And I guess I kind of get the sense, I kind of remember who she's supposed to be, sort of, They're just paintings, so they're not exactly the people in the book, but they're sort of meant to be reminiscent of them. I really did enjoy, and you'll be able to find my thoughts on this in my backlog somewhere, the second one, which is about the senator or politician and his sycophantic group of friends and his waverings of going in and out of fashion. And there's a wonderful female figure here who is absolutely amazing, and their interactions were just so much fun. I really like this. I did like it better than the first one. And so the one I just finished after, belly aching because I'm so slow, is The Kill. And to be honest, I'm still trying to figure out, so what was I guess The Kill was the way the main character arrived and made a killing of the town. I'm not exactly sure what it refers to, maybe the whole thing. And it hones in on this upwardly mobile brother of the politician. So also a Regrand, except he changes his name to Saccard. And so his new wife, he sort of, in a mean way, gets rid of his first wife, who conveniently dies. And that's kind of sort of a tie-in to Zola's weirdly deterministic view of people. Like, people are acting out. He has strange sort of view novels as an explication of his view of science and society. Like, they should mirror society and how he views society. And I think I should, for time reasons, I'll go back and come back with a more, well, what is all this about? He's obsessed with heredity and determinism, and so the people in his books are sort of archetypes or symbols of what he's trying to show. And it's a little bit distasteful sometimes, or just sort of silly almost to my sensibilities. But on the other hand, the novels are fantastic. So it's sort of like, and there are connections. So he's a naturalist, and part of that theoretical stuff is because of his sort of being considered a naturalist, so a precursor to modernism. So the psychological stuff. So this one was really good too. It did sort of, because I was so busy with work and everything, I couldn't sort of give my mind over it to completely. And I'm still sort of wondering about the fact that it features a stepmother and a very strange, a son, a stepson, and it's sort of like signs of the times. So it deals with him being a sort of a dandy, for lack of a better term, an effeminate, effete man. And, you know, like obsessed with women's clothing. And the only young man allowed into the women's dressing rooms. And he would hide behind their petticoats. So he sort of, and I think for Zola, this is sort of where the distasteful stuff perhaps comes in, is like that's a sign of the corruption of society, is this sort of girly man person. So that's but on the other hand, it's still kind of interesting, and it just sort of fits the times because it made me think of Oscar Wilde and all of that stuff going on. And you do get a kind of sense of fin de siècle decadence. It's a very decadent novel, and quite well done, though. Even though perhaps we take issue with his stand on things, the descriptions are great. When the two lovers are in the hothouse, it gets pretty hot. And in a sort of poetic way, like the intermingling of the bodies and the plants intertwining. He's just really good he's a very descriptive writer. I think in a way that's his strength. More so the plot is there, but it's not key. The keys are the descriptions, and that's where his social lens comes in. The way there's a wonderful scene at the end here where you have these businessmen walking through the ruins of a upended area of Paris, where the houses have been torn down to make way for new housing, but the houses are still sort of partly put together. You see bits of wallpaper, you see bits of furniture, and it's just, he's really good at that kind of writing, at descriptions, and he doesn't shy away from the lower classes or from you know, adult topics in a certain sense, which of course meant that the books were somewhat scandalous back in the day, and they're still so. But that's part of what he wants to do too. You know, he wants to show the seamy underbelly of society, of Paris, of the Paris that is sort of between 1848 and then the Battle of Sedan, where they lose to Germany. So the end of whatever, I guess I forget the name of what empire this is, but one of the Napoleons, the Second Empire, I think. So that's the one I'm going with. So this was number 3, and I'm going to continue on with Money, which I already have a copy of here, but which will take me to a different translator. So these 3 were all translated by Brian Nelson, apparently an Australian academic, French professor, French person, French scholar of French literature, and translator. And so this one is the first one by a British translator, Valerie Minogue, called Money, L'argent. And it's, so this one we're jumping out of the chronology because this was published in 1891. So 20 years later after this one. So that'll be interesting to see if I notice that at all. And after that, I'll have to quickly see. I'm hoping that there's Oxfords for all of them. I'm sort of a fan. The next one would be The Dream. And I don't think I wanted to show you all the ones I have. Yeah, I don't have The Dream yet, but I'm going to get it. And I do like these editions because they have some footnotes that are useful for me. In terms of covers, we have, I think there's this one. I think this is my favorite cover. I don't know, I just love this cover of these gentlemen lounging about. And then this one, I like this, but the thing is, I've seen this painting for real, it's because it's in Chicago, at the Art Institute of Chicago, and it's sort of like, it's never really impressed me that much, the painting itself. It's Caillebotte. It's a sort of impressionist painter. It's not bad, it's fine. And this is also Caillebotte, but a different one. This is in Florence, apparently. It tells you where they are, so that's good. And this looks very French with the awning and everything. So that's the next book. I'm not going to start it straight away, but we'll see. Yeah, I just wanted to give a bit of background on the Zola reading order issue, and I will post links to this wonderful resource of pages on Zola. And I have blabbed 15 minutes. Look at me go. I will be back with other bookish and perhaps other related videos very soon. Thank you all for watching. Hope you're doing well. How do you feel about Zola? Have you read any? Are you Team Zola or Team Balzac or Team Proust or all 3 or none of the above? Anyway, I will talk to you soon, and thank you all for watching. Bye.